Welcome, everyone, to the live stream with Senator Sanders. Senator Sanders, it's an honor to have you here. You walked from the Senate side all the way to the House
and
side.
I'm out of breath, Ro.
Not at all. You're a runner. I know that. I saw you play basketball as well. So it's a pretty amazing thing that has happened and that you've helped lead in the budget process. I mean, my whole life, I was telling you, I grew up where people thought government wasn't the answer. Government was the problem. And now we have a bill that you have ushered in which says government actually needs to be involved in giving people economic opportunity, in helping people develop, in tackling the climate crisis. And I think people don't know all of the things that are in this bill. I mean, It's transformative.
Yes.
And I thought maybe you could, as you often do, just let people know what is in this legislation.
Well, thank you very much, Ro. And let me congratulate this guy for being one of the outstanding progressive leaders here in the House of Representatives. Your voice has been loud and clear, not only on economic issues and social issues, but foreign policy as well. Thank you very much for the work you're doing. And thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk about what's in the bill. As I just mentioned to you, I get upset a little bit when the media is all interested in process and this, that, and the other thing. And yet we are not talking about enough the significance of this bill, which is going to impact almost everybody in our country. And I would start the discussion off, Ro, by stating that there are a whole lot of working people in our country who, to say the least, are disenchanted with government. You know, they're working longer hours for low wages. They've seen their jobs go abroad. They can't afford childcare. They can't afford to send their kids to college. They're not happy with the health care insurance they have, if they have health insurance. And they're saying, you know, government gives tax breaks to Jeff Bezos and billionaires. Does anybody give a damn about me? So above and beyond what's in this bill, to me, what we're trying to do is restore the faith of the American people in their democracy. That some of us at least understand the pain that people are experiencing and that we're trying to address it.
I think that is very well said. I mean, here you have Jeff Bezos not paying tax a couple of the years, Amazon not paying tax, these billionaires using their money to go up into space. And we have real issues here with people not having a fair shot at a middle class life, at having their kids live in the towns they grew up in. So let's talk some of the things that are in here. Let's start with when you have young kids, right?
Good.
I mean,
Well, let me back it up even to say, we talked about this issue. What the American people really feel deeply about is the unfairness of our tax system. Just that. Bezos, Amazon, other large corporations in a given year don't pay a nickel in federal income taxes.
Say that again, because I think people don't understand this. I mean, these companies are, what, $2 trillion market cap?
Huge profits.
And they're paying $0.
In a given year,
yes,
a company like Amazon and many others will pay zero, less than you pay in federal incomes. You're making $50,000, $100,000 a year, you pay income taxes. They don't. So it's personal income taxes.
Because they take all these deductions, right?
You got it. Because you have a complicated and unfair system. The corporations have dozens of accountants and lawyers. They help write, their lobbyists write the bill, and they have their accountants and lawyers telling them how to avoid paying their fair share. So one of the things that we do here is we say, you know what, the wealthy and the powerful and large corporations will start paying their fair share of taxes. Now, that's going to raise trillions of dollars. What do we do with the money? All right, and you're right, let's start with the little children. And I think you will agree with me in saying that the way we treat children in this country has been shameful. We are the richest country on earth, and yet we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major nation on earth. And we cannot continue that. So this proposal that we're working on right now does a number of things. First of all, many of you may have received your child tax credit check. We have expanded that over what it previously was and made it reversible. I hate that term, but it now means that even if you don't pay any taxes, you're going to get that check.
So it's what, $300 a month?
$300 for older children, $350 for younger children every single month. And you know what that's going to mean to low-income and working families who have kids? It's huge. It's transformative. And we believe, Ro, that we can cut childhood poverty in half.
It's unbelievable.
It is. So instead of giving tax breaks to billionaires, we're providing support for working families and their children. And about, I believe, 85% of families in America who have kids will be recipients of that. But that's not all we're doing for kids. You can talk about California, but I know that in Vermont, child care is about $15,000 a year. That's about average for the nation. Here in Washington, D.C., actually, it's much higher. Some places it's lower. So if you make $40,000 or $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, how do you come up with $15,000?
You can.
25% of your income. If you have 2 kids, forget about it, right? So what we're doing here is, and by the way, this is still a work in progress. I don't want to, what we're trying to do, I'm not going into all the bureaucratic details here. The details have not been finished. What the goal here is, for low and moderate income families, child care will be free. For families over a certain income, whether it's $50,000, $55,000, no family will pay more than 7% of their income.
And this is huge, right? With the pandemic, so many people have to stay at home looking after their kids, disproportionately women. So if you care about jobs, right, you care about people going back to work, you've got to look after people's
kids. It's huge.
Kids.
It is huge. So you do the arithmetic, you're making $50,000, 7% of that is $3,500. In Vermont, as opposed to paying $15,000. How's that for a significant discount? Yeah. And as part of that, we're trying to make child care workers a proud profession,
yes,
not just a minimum wage industry. Many of the child care workers are making horrible wages with no benefits at all, doing some of the most important work in America. Raising our kids is pretty important, right? So we're going to raise wages very substantially, working conditions, educational opportunities for child care workers. That's not all. While we're on the subject of children, it's going to be a long program.
Here's what I've never understood. Why are Republicans, the family values, they care about parents being, caring for their kids, having more time with their kids and being able to work. Why are they not for help with child care? I've never understood that. Why are they not for the child care tax credit? I mean, and on economics, right? I mean, James Heckman, University of Chicago economist, Nobel laureate, the Chicago School of Economics, he's done study after study showing that when you have holistic education in young ages, actually when someone is born up to the age of 5, there's no bigger investment. Right. Better than sending someone to Harvard, Yale. You go there and you have to have the holistic approach on Head Start. In my district, Senator Sanders, 2% of people who are eligible for Head Start can get in because the Head Start is not funded. And it cuts off at 30-some thousand. You can't, if you're at 45,000 in my district, you can't afford to
And
live there.
Head Start is often not full-time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody acknowledges that we have a dysfunctional healthcare system. I don't think there's any debate upon that. Head Start, a very good program, is only part-time, so parents have got to go take their kid from this program to that program to that program. It is confusing. It is totally inadequate. But in addition to child care, I want everybody to hear this. And one of the problems we're having, Ro, with this legislation, it is so big that if we were just talking about this, people would say,
right,
wow, that's great. This is a small part of what we're doing. But in terms of the needs of children, it's not only the child tax credit, it's not only making child care affordable, it is free universal pre-K. That huge. Means, all right, your kid is 3, your kid is 4. That means for all intended purposes, we're expanding public education now from K to 12, to the age of 3 to 12. Then we got community colleges we'll talk about in a minute. So this is, you use the word huge, it is huge. It is very, very significant for our children. And the point you made is study after study shows the best dollar we can spend, federal dollar we can spend, is on the little kids. And that's what we're doing here. All right, so that's dealing with child.
Talk about the extending on the community colleges. Because I know you've been fighting for the 4 years of free public college, which we need. But why is this such a big step towards that?
It's a big step. Now, as you and I agree, we work together on this thing. We believe that public colleges and universities should be tuition free, and we should cancel all student debt. That's what I believe. We're not there. I'm not going to hear, I don't want anyone to hear that this bill is everything that I believe in. It's not. The President and I have disagreements, and you and he have disagreements.
But you got a lot of your priorities.
Oh, yes. No, this is a very, very powerful bill, and I'm very proud of the work we're doing. But in terms of higher education, what we are saying is we're going to make 2 years of community colleges tuition free. Now, what's the significance of that? It opens the door to higher education for millions of young people, often black and brown, by the way, but all. And it saves money because you're going to get credit, 2 years of credit in a community college, which if you choose to go on to a 4-year school is transferable.
And it includes vocational education. A lot of this attack, it's elitist, et cetera, a lot of the vocational, the trade schools, all of the credentialing, that's covered. And you don't want people paying 10, 15 grand to get those credentials.
That's absolutely right. There is an enormous amount of work to be done in this country, which requires a skilled labor force, which in many cases we don't have right now. We're going to increase that demand through this legislation in terms of housing, climate, infrastructure. We need skilled workers. And if you think a plumber or a carpenter is not a well-paid worker, I don't know about California, but
they're very well paid.
They're very well paid. It is important, meaningful work where people are going to earn very good incomes, but we need people to get that training. So it'll be 2 years of tuition-free community college. Now let me go to another area that I have been working on. I happen to believe, I know you do, that healthcare is a human right, that we should move toward a Medicare for all single-payer program. Everybody should be entitled to comprehensive healthcare without out-of-pocket expenses. Are we moving in that direction in this bill? No. Are we taking a significant step forward in terms of public health care? Yes, we are. What are we doing? We're doing a number of things. Number one, we are going to expand Medicare to include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. I'm sure you run into seniors who may not have teeth in their mouth, can't talk to their grandchildren because they can't afford a hearing aid, can't see adequately because they can't afford decent eyeglasses. So we're going to expand Medicare to do what should have been done originally and include these basic healthcare needs in Medicare. We also,
I don't think people realize that often that what this bill is doing, which is now you're not going to have to pay out of pocket for dental care, for basic eyeglasses, and for a hearing aid. I mean, my parents, have needs where that's not covered under Medicare. I mean, it's outrageous.
That's right. And dental care coverage in this country is almost always inadequately covered by insurance. And so this will be a major step forward in terms of senior health care.
And I remember your campaign well enough. You used to start with this line, right, that we were going to get hearing, dental, vision covered, and this is in the bill.
This is in the bill.
Big deal.
That's right. So we're proud of that. We're also going to try to lower the age of eligibility. It's been 65 since the inception of Medicare back in 65. And I think it's time to lower it and to at least 60.
You think we'll get that done? I mean, I know that's
being debated. I can't guarantee anything. The other thing we want to do is there are many states in this country, often Republican states, which have not accepted the expansion of the Affordable Care Act to include Medicaid expansion. And that means there are millions of people, low-income people, who have no health insurance at all. And we're trying to figure out a way how do we get insurance to them at a time when their governors and legislatures don't want that. So we're working on that as well. So, and I should talk, while we're on the issue of health care, let's talk about our
And this is a transformative, right? Before 2016, I mean, let's just be real here. I mean, there was no conversation about expanding Medicare. The conversation I remember used to be, how do we cut Medicare? And now what we're debating is expanding benefits to common sense, dental, vision, hearing, and expanding it to 60, 55. Your bill, I think people didn't realize. People say, how is it going to happen? All it was a transition where you'd expand it to 55, 45, 35.
That's right.
And we're now on that track. That's what's being debated. We've changed the entire terms of debate.
We have. And I want to thank you for helping out to do that.
I didn't run for president twice.
Yeah, well, it's not me alone, but you were there helping me, as well as millions of other people. And what we have basically done is to ask a simple question, is what are the needs of the American people? What are the needs in terms of climate, which we'll get to? And that's the premise that we start this work on. And once you do that, you say, oh my God, We have children who are living in hunger. We have people in dilapidated, inadequate housing. We have elderly people who aren't having their basic health care needs satisfied. So once you kind of pick that scab, once you open that door, you say, wow, there are enormous needs out there. And the American people are saying to us, you know what, address our needs in the middle class and the working class, not just the billionaire class. That's what this transformation is about. And once you start with that premise, you're off and running.
People say, oh, you were a genius negotiator with the $6 trillion. I'd say, having known you, I think you just were saying that was what the actual moral need was, right? I don't think you came up with some negotiating strategy.
Yeah. Between you and me, don't tell anybody. That's a conservative number. If you look, and we're going to get to climate in a moment, if you go out to the scientific community and you say to them, all right, what do you think we really have to do to transform our energy system? They will say many, many, many trillions of dollars. So
let's talk about climate, because this is going to be the boldest investment tackling the climate crisis that we've seen in our country's history. I mean, it actually gets serious about climate. Talk about a couple of the things that you were able to secure in this package.
Okay, we're talking about a renewable energy standard, which demands that and by the way, I always say this, the United States can't do it alone. And one of the concerns that I have about the anti-China rhetoric we're hearing, not to say that China is not complicit in a number of terrible human rights violations and authoritarianism, all that stuff. We're not going to solve the climate crisis unless we work with China.
And they just went to an auction. I mean, they're saying by 2060 they're going to go to zero carbon because they've instituted basically a system where you have to pay to be able to have emissions. So they're acting as well.
They're moving aggressively. We're going to have to work with them. This is an issue that the United States alone, China alone cannot solve it. We need we need India, we need Brazil, we need major countries around the world. So what are we doing? We're going to establish a renewable energy standard, which tells electric companies that in a very short period of time, they're going to have to transform their electrical generation away from coal, away from gas, into clean, sustainable energy. That may be solar, it may be wind, it may be hydro, or other sustainable technologies. It means that we're going to invest a lot in transportation, which means moving our transportation system to an electrified system to a significant degree. That means electric buses, that means electric cars, and there will be very significant rebates to enable middle-income, working-class people to buy a car which they'll be able to afford. So this is not just a Tesla for $130,000. Right. This is a car that may end up costing you $15,000, $20,000, which will be a really good car.
There's going to be new jobs in Michigan, Ohio, all these.
Of course it will. Of course it will. So you have also, what I'm very excited about, I don't have to tell you, Ro, because you've been around the country with me, that the younger generation feels very, very strongly about climate. And they don't want to have to bring their kids up in a world which is increasingly uninhabitable and unhealthy. And my God, I mean, if you just look at the news, watch TV today, I mean, it's not only, you know about it in California, it is Europe, it is in my state now, we're breathing particulates in the air. The air in Vermont is increasingly unhealthy because of the fires in Oregon. Can you believe that?
In California.
Oh, God, I know. No. So, to anybody out there who thinks that climate change is not real, I would beg of you, just just open your eyes to see what's going on. And it's happening, I think, much more rapidly. The idea that we can see these things with our own eyes, they're not taking hundreds of years, is really very frightening. So we got to be aggressive, we got to work with other countries. Now, you've been around the country with me, and you know how strongly young people feel about the need to transform our energy system. And in this bill, we're going to put many, many billions of dollars in a civilian climate corps. Now, you know what that means to them? We're going to give them decent salaries and educational benefits, whether it's the ability to go to college or pay off their debt, in order to get involved, rolling up their sleeves, whether it's dealing in California with forest issues, whether it's weatherization in homes, whether it's working for the Park Service, whatever it may be. Young people will have the opportunity to lead our country and the world in saving this planet. I'm very excited about that.
I thought that was one of the biggest achievements. And people ask me, why is it that the Sunrise Movement and so many of these young folks were so passionate about having the Civilian Climate Corps? Why was that such a high priority that you helped deliver on? And I think it's that they view this as the generational challenge. They want people to mobilize and answer the call to service. It's not just about the jobs. Yes, there'll be good paying jobs. They understand that they're going to need millions of people dedicating their lives to tackling this. And that's what, it's almost like the Peace Corps. It's a call of mobilization in this country.
You know, historically we have asked, and sometimes tragically and inappropriately, I think of the war in Vietnam, we have asked young people to give up their lives fighting in a war. Well, in a sense, we're not asking people to give up their lives now, but there is a war going on. It is a brutal war against climate, and we are going to ask young people to help lead us into sustainability and to effectively combat climate change. So I am excited about this, and I think it could be something that inspires an entire younger generation who finally are going to have the opportunity to do the kind of meaningful and important work that they have wanted to do for a long time.
We could talk about the bill for hours, but you've actually got to go back and help pass it. So let me end with sort of get your more philosophical reflections of where we are in our moment in history. I mean, we've talked about what this bill will do for children, for education, for health care.
Paid family and medical leave.
Paid family leave, another area.
Affordable housing. Home health care.
You can talk about all of them. I'm just trying to be respectful of your time and your demands, but we could go on for hours. And I know, Senator, that's what you like to talk about, not all the horse race of politics, but what we're actually doing for people. Exactly. But let me ask you this. You know, people say, well, it doesn't do everything, and obviously it doesn't do everything that you campaigned on or the country needs. But when I look back at history and the progressive movement or the New Deal, these were things that were achieved just in 6 months or a year. But they took decades. But I believe this could be really the ushering in of a new progressive era, because all of the principles are there. The principle for Medicare for all, the principle for universal child care, universal preschool, bold action on climate change. And then it's for all of us in Congress and the next generation to build on it. But talk about how transformative. I think people don't realize you were there. You've been in Congress and the Senate for the last 30 years, stuck in this Reagan framework. Government's the problem. We haven't been able to spend. And it seems to me there's finally been a breakthrough.
There has been. And again, I thank you for your generosity in praising me, but it's not just me. It's
the movement.
It's all of us. It is a movement of millions of people. And what we have accomplished, Ro, is, as you've indicated, for years we have been told, well, we can give tax breaks to the rich. We can do that. We can spend $6 trillion on the war on terror. We can do that. We can spend a lot of money locking people up in American penitentiaries. We can do that. But somehow we cannot address the real needs and the struggles facing lower income and middle income people. And what we're saying is, and this is what is transformative, that is exactly what we're going to do. Okay? We're turning the page. And right now the focus is on asking a simple question: why in the richest country in the history of the world cannot all of our people have health care as a human right, have decent housing, decent paying jobs, live on a planet that is healthy and habitable? And once you ask that question, then all kinds of things flow from that. So I believe, let me be very clear, yes, there'll be some people say, well, you didn't do enough here, you didn't do enough there. I got that. But take a deep breath. What Ro and I are talking about and what is in this bill is, in my view, the most significant piece of legislation for working people since FDR and the Great Depression of the 1930s, the New Deal. That's what it is. And we don't accomplish everything overnight. Nobody ever does. But we are laying the groundwork in healthcare and housing and education, in climate, to really transform this country. So I'm very proud of what we're doing, and we're doing this, I should say, without any Republican support, and at a time when we have 50 votes. That's it. So, people, do we have problems doing this? Of course we do. Within the Democratic caucus, no great secret, there are some ideological differences, right? Some minor differences, to say the least. And then you got a parliamentarian that we have to deal with because we have to go through a reconciliation process. We have the Congressional Budget Office and deal with that. So this is complicated stuff. But at the end of the day, your point is exactly right. This is a huge deal. And we think we're laying the groundwork for a transformed America.
Well, thank you, Senator Sanders. There's a group of excited, energetic House progressives eager to partner with you and deliver on this.
And let me say this again, you've been nice to praising me. When I was here in the House a long time ago, I helped form the House Progressive Caucus. We had nowhere near the influence that you guys have right now.
We got 90 plus members now.
Who are strong.
Who are active, who show up to the meetings.
It's
come.
You've made a difference. Without the Progressive Caucus here in the House, we would not be anywhere near where we are today. So thank you very much for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.